I agreed to meet up with Nora at a cafe nearby for episode 5 of our Eliza analysis. This is the scene where we get some velocity. In order to have a character arc, you have to have some character motion, and this is where our character starts to move. Nora comes in, reaches down, and pulls her out of the mire. It's a very basic setup. We're going to see a lot of details about how that's going to unfold, but first I want to talk about the framing device here, the visual. This is a really unusual choice, and I think it was a mistake, but maybe it was on purpose and I'm just not getting it. So this is us. And Nora is going to be an equally tiny sprite over here. Basic rule of anything visual, the smaller the character is, the further away they are. So these two characters are now very far away from us. We're not supposed to feel close to them. There's glass between us and them, so again, we're not supposed to feel close to them. There's all sorts of vertical and horizontal bars everywhere, so we're supposed to feel like they're imprisoned. That's what this design language says. So maybe that's on purpose. Maybe the idea is Evelyn is trapped in a prison of her own mind, and then Nora visits to pull her out. Maybe. If so, it doesn't come through in any of the dialogue or the deliveries. It feels like we're supposed to be quite close to Nora and getting closer. So it feels very strange. This setting, it didn't really read very well to me. But it's not terrible. It's just kind of a strange choice. I almost didn't recognize her when she came in and sat down at my table.
Evelyn! It's been so long since the last time I saw you in person.
She used to stick to a very subdued and professional look. Guess she really wanted to put those days behind her.
It's definitely been a while. 3 years?
Yeah, almost 3 years.
So one of the nice things about introductions is that you can use them to reveal information. In this case, it's not just, hey Evelyn, how you doing? Hey Nora, I'm doing better, I guess. No, that we're using this to talk about some details. And in this case, we already knew that Evelyn has been depressed for 3 years. What we're getting now is the idea that it wasn't just her. She wasn't alone. When she went off grid and became super depressed, she had friends. She didn't turn to them. So we're left kind of wondering exactly what happened there, but she wasn't just a loner that stumbled. She had a group, and the group was shattered. The other thing is that this is basically the same plotline as Life is Strange, minus the psychic powers. So I'm not going to say that, it's not like anybody has that on lockdown. This certainly isn't a copy of Life is Strange, and everything that comes in after this is completely different. But you can get a lot of mileage out of the same fundamental backstory of two girls that were great friends, and then something horrible happened, and they split up, and now they're back again. That has a lot of emotional power behind it, and that's why it's used so many times. It doesn't have to be girls, it can be boys. But the point here is that there is some emotional power behind the idea of an old friend you haven't seen in a while, and that emotional power is quite a bit stronger if it's someone you haven't seen in a while because something happened.
Feels like no time at all.
Well, I'm glad you're back doing something. But you didn't tell me what the new job is.
Oh, well, it's, being a proxy counselor for Eliza.
So here we're going to learn a little bit about Evelyn's past, but we're not going to learn enough to know what's going on. Now, the reason for that is because the author wants your head going. The author wants your brain to start thinking. If the author just gave you the answers pat, then your brain would go, okay. But since you don't actually know enough to know, your brain will start to chew on it and get interested. It's not hiding information from you for the sake of a twist. It's hiding information from you so that you'll actually pay attention.
You're kidding me. That's an interesting choice.
I'm not quite sure why I did it. Maybe I thought I'd be able to see things in a new light.
Wait, so do the people at the counseling office know?
No, not yet. I should tell them, probably. I don't know.
So this is a really cool trick. We don't know what the secret is. The player has no idea what the secret is, but we're still asked what her reason is, why she's keeping it. So that means we're being asked to tell ourselves what sort of person she is when it comes to a secret we don't know anything about. So therefore, the real question is, how does she feel about secrets in general? Even though we're talking about a specific secret, we don't know what that specific secret is. So we have to assume the worst or the best. We have to assume this is how she feels about all secrets. And it doesn't really matter in this game, but this is a technique you can use in your own games where it might.
It's fun to have it be a secret. I'm sure it'll get out eventually, one way or another.
Yeah, it probably will. Evelyn, how are you these days? I mean, really, how are you?
We got 3 nearly identical answers. I'm going to take the optimistic one, but you can take whichever one you'd like. It doesn't actually change the plot of the story, I don't think.
I'm better. Not by a lot, but still better.
The idea here is that we're giving Evelyn some velocity. The whole point of this entire session is the player steps into Evelyn's shoes and makes her pick up her feet. Makes her start moving.
I knew you were working at that bookstore for a while, but other than that, it's like you dropped off the edge of the planet.
Well, I wasn't up to much.
I checked your social media once in a while, but nothing. Not that I blame you. I hate all those apps.
And she really hates all those apps. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I deleted them.
I struggle to find the words about to talk about what happened, but they don't come.
I don't know what happened. It's like...
There's something dark in my mind blocking me when I try and go there. Avoid.
I guess I'm still not ready to talk about it
So
yet.
I'm not sure those lines were very well done, because I don't believe the player is quite in the zone for Evelyn to start talking about her trauma yet. And I know that she's saying she's not ready to talk about it yet out loud, but we can hear her thoughts, and so therefore she's still speaking when she has those thoughts. I think it would have been better to wait a little bit longer before letting Evelyn voice her own internal monologues like that. But it wasn't terrible. I think it was just a little bit fast.
It's okay. Take the time you need. I'm sorry, Evelyn. I knew you were in a difficult place after what happened, and I wanted to say something.
Nora was in the exact same place as us, so I'm not sure why there's apologies going around.
But I worried that maybe you don't want to hear from anyone from your past. Maybe you wanted to be left alone and not reminded of the old job.
So now I know that the old job had something to do with whatever our 3 years of depression was about, and that probably had something to do with our strange Eliza information going on, because we haven't done anything for 3 years, so we can't have been involved with Eliza more recently. At least she wouldn't know that we were. These are 3 very different options that let us have different mindsets as to what we want Evelyn to think, right? How we want Evelyn to be. Does she sort of... These are very ambiguous. They can be interpreted in several ways. Like this: no, I would have liked it. Is that blaming Nora for not contacting us, or is it just like, oh, that would have been nice? I'm not blaming anybody, but I think I would have been in a good spot to receive it. Yeah, I wasn't ready then. It sounds like you're accepting it, but it also sounds like you're meaning that, like, yeah, it's a good thing you didn't. But it also could be your way of letting her off the hook, even though it would have been a help. Or I could say, it's nice to know you were thinking of me, which is a hedge, but it's not really optimistic or better. None of these are better or worse. There's too many ways they could be interpreted, and we don't get to hear them spoken. So we can't really tell what kind of delivery we're actually giving.
It's nice to know you were thinking of me.
I lied. Sorry.
Well, I'm glad. I was kind of going through a lot myself last couple years.
We don't get the delivery before the line is what I meant. I was thinking about the choices that we're making, not after the choices happen.
That's right. What about you? How is your life these days? What's it like being a rock star?
So Nora is being set up as someone who is successful in the prime of her life. She's got everything going for her. She's in a high place. She's doing well, and she's feeling good. This is important because it lets her reach down and grab us and pull us out of the mud. If she was struggling, if she was stuck in a coffee shop desperately trying to make ends meet, it would be a lot harder for her to pull us out of the mud because she is in the mud with us. It could be actually a really cool story. It could have been really an interesting story. But in this case, it's not the story that would have worked with the introduction of the other 2 characters we'll see later. So Nora has to be successful. she is therefore a rock star, so that we can buy her ability to pull us out of the mud. Also, her rock star status is important for her actual duty in the game, which we'll talk about in a later line here.
It's a lot of work, actually. I have to prepare for the show next week. I have 2 collaborations ongoing, and I'm applying for funding for another, a big one. I'm also advising on an art activism group that makes art installations to challenge people to think about the ways technology is affecting their lives.
So, a couple of things. First off, did you notice the delivery there was a little bit strange? And that the music turned on? You probably can't hear the music very well. I've got it turned down quite a bit. This is an important line, and the one before it. It's an important line according to the game. And why is that? It's because Nora's actual duty in this game is the exact opposite of Ray. Ray is the lady from Skanda. She exists to humanize Skanda. Nora is exactly the opposite. She's an anti-capitalist who exists to demonize Skanda and any other corporate startups. So this is a fun situation where they've set up 2 characters on opposite ends, and basically the 2 characters pull you in both directions. They're written such that you're not supposed to find one or the other to be right. They're both good people who are in very different places. Nora is brutally anti-capitalist and thinks that the startup industry is just total trash, and Ray is an endless cheerleader who fangirls over a CEO. And it's fun, those sorts of extremes are fun to write, but more importantly, we're not supposed to feel like we are 100% behind either character. Both characters are supposed to feel a little bit too extreme for our tastes. Only problem is that I've actually been in the startup industry, and Nora is just right. She's not too extreme. She's just correct. Which makes it hard for me to get along with any of the other characters in the game because they exist as part of the startup industry, and I appreciate them as characters. They're awesome, but I would never want to be friends with any of them. That said, let's move along.
Oh yeah, and I'm working on this, kind of like it's a granular synthesis engine, but with a new twist to it. It should be interesting.
Granular synthesis? Sorry, I don't know what that is.
It's a way to make sounds out of smaller sounds called grains.
So, in case it wasn't clear, the writer is also the musician. At least I think that's what it is. At the very least, the writer knows a lot about digital music, because nothing about the digital music in this is incorrect. It's all 100% accurate. Yeah.
Maybe it's better to show you than to explain in words.
Sounds like you're busy, but happy.
Yeah. It's good. Well, I make less money than I used to, but I don't care. Old me might have worried about that. Not anymore, though. Sometimes I do take a little contract coding work, but I'm making most of my rent with booking fees and selling music and so on. Kind of crazy. Kind of scary, but good.
If it makes you happy, it seems worth it. Maybe I should consider moving in a direction like that.
Hey, look, one of our feet just came out of the mud. Thank you, Nora.
You should. Listen, I hope you can get away from the industry too, at some point. Ah, that reminds me what I was going to tell you about. Our old boss is back on his bullshit.
Rainer? Soren?
Soren Lloyd Rose. Celebrated psychologist, entrepreneur, and creepo.
I love this story. Now, if you've never been involved in the startup industry, you might think that this story is maybe a little bit eccentric. I have never met anyone who's like top echelon startup stuff. I've never met any one of those people who wasn't worse than Soren. Soren is a weird creep, but as startup kings go, he's actually not that bad. It's really a pretty gross industry.
Creepo.
Let's listen to the entertaining story.
He wasn't ever weird around you? Did I ever tell you about the time that he hit on me with a story about past lives and the thread of destiny?
Wait, what?
Oh, this is a good one. Okay, It was early on when the team was still pretty small, 7 or 10 people maximum. He'd gone out with some executives to dinner, and who knows what else. He came back to the office super late. I think it was like at least 11, maybe later. And the whiskey smell was just surrounding him. Like he jumped into a whiskey bathtub with his clothes on. Maybe he'd like to do that, I don't know.
So a big part of this is that we're learning who Soren is, which is important because we're not going to get a chance to actually meet him before he starts laying on like actual plot. So we have to know who he is before we really meet him and talk to him. I'm not sold 100% on that approach, but it works better than not trying at all.
Anyway, I was still there for some reason. I was in the crunch mindset. He came over to my desk and started to mumble about, I don't even know how to describe it, just this nonsensical rambling. He started by saying how much he hated businessmen, how ridiculous they are, that they don't know anything. He said that a few times. Then he said he could see my soul, that I was like a reincarnated spirit of, I don't remember, he said some name.
Like a person's name?
Like a mythological name. I didn't hear it very well, but it was like a Buddhist spirit or deity or something like that. Then he goes on to say how he and I, all of us on the team, we're all these reincarnated spirits sent to relieve human suffering at the end of the world. And we're connected by a thread of destiny that draws us to each other again and again over multiple lifetimes. He talked about it like it was just like a red string you could see. So I'm thinking, is this like some kind of pickup technique? You know, how people will talk to you and say, oh, you are the reincarnation of an ancient goddess or something. Ugh, just because they are horny.
People do actually do that. If you've never had the honor of seeing that happen in first person, I'll just reassure you that that actually happens.
Oh, yeah, totally. Guys will try anything.
He went on some more like that for a while, and I didn't know what to do. I wanted to leave, but he was blocking me where he was standing. So I couldn't simply go. I had to keep listening to him. Finally, he mentioned that he would be open to the possibility of sleeping with me, and then he passed out on the couch immediately.
You're kidding.
No, not at all. Of course, we never talked about it after that. Certainly, I would not bring it up. I wonder if he even remembers. Nothing like that happened again, but I think it was because I took care to not be around if it seemed like he was going to be drunk at the office. I wonder if he's still that way. I'm sure he is.
Yeah, he is, because the whole point of this is to set up his character.
Wow.
And now he's back. Isn't it exciting? He messaged me the other day wanting to talk to me about some new startup he's putting together.
He left Skanda?
He's planning to. It's a secret for now. He asked me to join, and I said, no, there's absolutely no way. Maybe a long time ago, I'd be interested in a chance to start a new company with someone famous like Soren at the top. You know, a time when I'd put up with his shittiness because I believed in what we were doing. Change the world, you know the speech. Or, if we didn't change the world, at least we might get rich trying. I don't think that way anymore. I'm tired of the tech business. I'm tired of what guys like him represent. This industry can have fun eating itself and everything around it, causing as many problems as it solves. I don't want to be a part of it.
So there we've established Nora's role. She is the exact opposite of Ray.
It took me a while to see it, but I feel some responsibility for the world we live in now.
You've really changed, Nora.
It doesn't feel like I've changed. It just feels like I know more about myself than I used to. I want to be creative, be myself to the maximum. Now I know you weren't lying about leaving social media because I posted about this. A lot.
Yeah, I guess I missed it.
A lot can happen in 3 years. Now I just hope maybe I could talk to other people who are in the same situation I was in. I want young people, especially women, to know that yes, it is possible to get rich by working with guys like Soren. But there is a big cost, too. I mean, there's always a cost. Maybe a cost you didn't think about before. Or maybe it's a cost you thought you would be okay with paying, but then when the debt comes due, you realize, oof, it's bigger than you thought.
So, pretty clear, Nora is establishing exactly how she's pulling you. We got Ray pulling you one way, Nora pulling you another way. Soren and Raynor are going to come in and pull you in 2 other ways. By the way, Soren and Raynor, just change the letters around. In case you're wondering how they came up with their names, I'm pretty sure some of them were just like, oh, these 2 characters should be opposite. Let's just give them scrambled names.
Now that's my conclusion. But you, on the other hand, you should go and say hello to him.
Notice the music started up again? I don't think those are incidental. I think they were chosen carefully to highlight what we're supposed to feel. We're supposed to get this little groovy tingle. Yeah, we should go and see him.
To Soren.
Yeah, he's giving this big keynote talk next week, you know? It's the reveal of his new startup. Many people will be watching.
Why should I go to that?
It will be interesting, don't you think? You're already working as a proxy for Eliza. That must be giving you some new perspectives. Now you'll get to see what Soren believes the next step is. Don't tell me you're not the least bit curious.
I don't know. Maybe I am. It's free to attend?
Of course not. It's at one of those conferences you pay thousands of dollars to get into. But lucky for you, I have an all-access pass. Here, take it.
Really? Are you sure?
Yeah, he had one sent to me. As if there's any way I would go to a snake person convention like that.
Snake person.
Ah, you know, people who are like snakes. Venture capitalists. Biz dev.
If you're so against it, why do you think I should go?
Because I already made my decision. You need to go make yours. You're coming out from the cave you were in for the last 3 years, and you need to decide what you're going to do next, right?
Nora leans over the table towards me, a serious look in her eye.
Evelyn, you're one of the smartest people I've met in my whole life. I'm serious.
So this is one of the things I talk about a lot when I'm talking about how to build the openings of your games or your stories in general. In games especially, it's easy to set up the whole world against the main character. Because you're trying to threaten the main character, get the plot rolling, you're trying to make sure they've got something to fight against, something to strive for. It's easy to accidentally make it so there is nothing in the game world that is good. So that's why I almost always recommend that you have a character that is your friend, that pulls you forward, that appreciates you and flatters you. That way, no matter how dark the rest of the world gets, there's always a reason to come back because there is some light in that world. Your friend wants you to come back. And that's what Nora is. She's our friend. Of course, in this game, all 4 of the main NPCs really like us, but that's fine because it's not an adversarial game. That's not the point of the game.
I've seen the way you approach things like this. You're going to research and learn as much as you can. And only then, when you feel like you know enough, you'll make your decision. Isn't that right? You have more to contribute to the world, but you want to know you're contributing the right things in the right way. I've always admired that about you.
Now, the reason that she gets to say it is because if we said it, it would be way, way too aggressive. It wouldn't really make sense. We barely started to move, and here's some statements running at full tilt. But if she says it, we can just be like, yeah, that's what she thinks. But we'll still internalize it.
Anyway, I should get going. I have a rehearsal for a show to get to. It was really good to see you, though. Really, really good. I promise not to be a stranger anymore, okay?
Nora dashes off to her rehearsal. She is a busy person now. Busy but happy. Is that a secret? Is that the secret? Keep yourself busy? Alright, well, we can look around this place if we want. We can look at the emails. I'm not 100% sure where the next chapter element is, so I'm going to look at the emails, because I didn't get a chance to look at them last time, because the chapter break was in a weird spot. So it's worth looking at this. We'll look at some of the old ones, since we didn't get a chance to look at them in the last episode here. So this is Nora's session. Nora, aka Lil Sappho. Quite similar to Life is Strange. Featuring KO. So here is an important email that we missed. This is someone telling us about Damien Seabrook, who died 3 years ago. So even though we don't really know what was going on, if we've read the emails carefully, we do know that the reason she's super depressed, probably something to do with this Damien guy and his death. Probably a tech worker, because he's chosen tech work related things. Maybe he had some mental health problems, because there are mental health related things as well. So, you know, we can sort of put together that maybe we were working with him in a techie thing. Who knows? Here's Meredith Mercer telling us that the Cabo Fudo Solitaire is hard. Cabo Fudo Solitaire is the least hard of the solitaire games they've put out. I had beaten it long before this email came out. And here's an interview. Peter Gerd, who is telling us that he wants to interview us about Eliza. So now we know what happened. Or now we know what we were doing. We helped develop Eliza. So it's unclear exactly how much we helped to develop Eliza, but since we were on board early enough that there were only 7 to 10 employees, according to Nora's story, that means that we were pretty core. And he's been asking for us for a while, and we've been ignoring him. I think that's a good place to stop. I'll just show you the Cabo Fudo Solitaire. Winning this on Expert is the only achievement on Steam. So it's like, you won our Cabo Fudo Solitaire. You win 1 point. Congrats. But this is a solitaire game. They put a solitaire game in every one of almost every one of their games as a way to sort of stretch your brain in a different direction after you get burned out on puzzles. This one is interesting mostly because the slots up here can take 1 card, whereas an empty slot down here can take any number of identical cards, which means that if you have a giant stack of course there's not like 2. Oh, here's 2. So if you got a stack of 2 like this, I can put one of them on the red tile, but I can't put both of them on the red tile. But if this was clear, I could put both of them here. So that's the big thing about what makes this particular version of Solitaire unique. You just line up all of the 4 of the identical cards, and they turn into a sealed column or slot. And the order in which you do that, it really depends on whether you need to put 1 card away or a whole stack of cards away. It's kind of a fun game. It's not that hard for a solitaire game. It's harder than like Windows Solitaire, but it's very approachable. I think most people could probably win it on Expert, maybe a dozen tries, as long as you learn how to think about what cards need to go where. Has nothing to do with the story. I thought I'd just mention it because it's a fun Zachtronics fact. Anyhow, good time to end. Holy crap, half an hour. Way past time to end. See you next time.